Hi, everyone. This is Denora Martinez, Associate Industry Partnerships here at ASID. Welcome to today's Partner Spotlight webinar brought to you by Turkish Stones, a brand of the Istanbul Mineral Exporters Association, or İMİB, an industry partner of ASID. İMİB is a professional nonprofit association that has administered all export activities of Turkey's minerals sector since 1976. The ASID Partner Spotlight webinar series is your opportunity to engage in a product-focused forum with industry experts. The Partner Spotlight webinar series is an ongoing initiative that provides a 30-minute webinar for designers to engage with ASID industry partners, manufacturers, and industry experts in a virtual setting. After the presentation, there will be a Q&A. As a participant, your audio is not activated. Instead, you can use the question section on the control panel to the right side of the screen to type in a question and we will read it to all. Today, we are pleased to have Gökhan Karakuş here to talk about Turkish Travertine in contemporary design and architecture. Gökhan is an interior designer concentrating on the intersection of design and architecture. Educated in architecture at Bazar College and Columbia University in New York, he later set up his design studio, İMİB Design, in Istanbul, Turkey, specializing in digital and computational design. Gökhan's recent work focuses on craft and digital fabrication with materials such as stone and ceramic. He also curates, speaks, and writes on trends and strategies in architecture and design for magazines such as Wallpaper, Dwell, and Icon. Today's webinar will introduce travertine from Turkey to designers with detailed information on its background and properties. Examples of Turkish travertine in contemporary architecture, including technical details, design tips, and trends, will familiarize designers with this flexible and popular natural stone from Turkey. And now I am going to pass it over to Gökhan to begin the presentation.
Thank you, Denora, and thank you for the introduction, and thank you to the American Society of Interior Designers for this opportunity to show Turkish travertine and Turkish travertine in architecture and design. Turkish Stones is part of the Istanbul Mineral Exporters Association, and we're glad to be able to familiarize our stone travertine today to American audience of interior designers. So I'm Gökhan Karakuş, and let's start. So today I'm going to talk about travertine from Turkey, and we're going to take a look at how it's used in contemporary architecture and design. We're going to look initially at Turkish travertine in the context of Turkish stones. Then we'll look at travertine and what travertine is as a material. And then travertine from Turkey. Turkey is a source of travertine globally. We'll take a look at that. And travertine also in terms of contemporary architecture, specifically Turkish travertine, how it's used. We'll look at some examples from leading architects, American architects, and some architects in Europe. And lastly, we'll take a look at some of the properties of travertine, some technical details, and I'm going to try to give you some suggestions on how to use travertine, some tips, and some trends for using it. So travertine sits in a constellation in a group of marbles and other natural stones from Turkey. And as you can see here, Turkish stones encompasses a group of different marbles and travertines. In fact, Turkey is a great source of marble. Also, you can see some of our signature marbles, such as the İhracatçıları, the Marmara marble, the striped marble in gray and white, the Milas lilac and Anadolu black. Of course, Turkey is known for its beiges and its white colored marbles, such as the Bursa beige, Bilecik beige. These are the more widespread types of marble we have. And as you can see, the Anatolian travertine sits in this world of white, beige, gray natural stones. If we look at the distribution of natural stone, Turkey, its geography, it's in a belt that stretches, a geological belt that stretches from the Alps to the Himalayas, and this is an area of great density in terms of natural stone. And in Turkey, we can see here between the different types of natural stones, such as marble, onyx, travertine, basalt, and andesite. We have a large number of natural stone quarries in the country. One of the features of natural stone in Turkey is the great variety of colors. In Turkey, we have colors in marble ranging from blues and greens and pinks all the way to the white. And as you can see here, it's distributed in quarries in Western Turkey, but also in Central Anatolia. The sector itself is a #1 exporter globally of marble and travertine. We have significant exports all around the world, almost $1.8 billion worth of exports. And we're exporting as a natural stone sector and working with architecture, design, and construction companies to realize some of these projects in both advanced design, as you can see here, using innovative forms and shapes, but also with great technical proficiency. The industry, if anybody has ever been to a quarry, they'll be familiar with this site. Basically, this is where all marble, all travertine starts, are in the quarries. And part of the important process of quarrying natural stone is cutting it up in blocks so they can be used efficiently throughout the process. Here we have some Marmara marble, which is close to Istanbul, where I'm speaking to you from. And you can see how it's cut. It's been cut in these quarries for thousands of years. Of course, over the last 50, 60 years, natural stone industry in Turkey has invested considerably into its industrial infrastructure. And here we can see images from one of our factories where a big block of marble taken from the quarry is then cut into slabs and then processed. These slabs are processed through surface treatments and proceed on to the next part of the process, which is to cut into certain types of dimension stone and sizes that clients, customers, and architects have specified. Lately, over the last 10 years, we've had a serious investment into R&D here in Turkey. And this means we are creating innovative natural stone products. This machine you see here actually takes a marble slab and sands it down to very thin thicknesses, and we have now the development of natural stone veneers in marbles. These are very, very thin veneers on various different types of substrates, and it shows one direction in natural stone today. At the same time, we live in an age of computational design. This is a subject that I have been involved in over the last 10, 15 years, and this particular machine here is a 5-axis CNC, both a router and a saw, and this allows us to create 3-dimensional shapes in natural stone. So this is another direction the Turkish natural stone sector is involved in, which is creating more innovative, more advanced forms. The sector itself has extreme competency and proficiency in all aspects of natural stone production, from the quarry to the factory and through fabrication, digital fabrication, machinery like this up. And it's important to mention, with great attention to handwork craft. Natural stone is a natural organic material, and it requires the hand, whether it's to sand surfaces, whether polished surfaces, whether round surfaces. And in Turkey, we pride ourselves on our handcraft. So let's take a look at travertine from Turkey, where it's coming from. So travertine actually is part of the limestone family of stones. It's formed like a lot of other limestones. The key ingredient is calcium carbonate, which is one of the most prevalent materials on the earth. The difference with travertine is, if travertine, it forms near hot springs and caves, so the underwater water coming from underground takes the limestone and gives travertine its unique veining, making it popular for centuries. Travertine from Turkey, because of our geography, has been used in architecture for almost 2,000–3,000 years. And the source of it is in the main source of Turkish travertine is in the province of Denizli, which is in the west part of the country, close to the ports of İzmir and Istanbul. And you can see here a picture of Denizli and one of the UNESCO World Heritage Sites, which is a place called Pamukkale. And you can see here that this is a thermal hot spring. This is the water is bubbling up from underground. And in fact, what you can see here is travertine in its most pure state, which is here as a white material. So it hasn't been combined with any types of other irons or clays to give it any discoloration. And this is a very famous World Heritage Site where tourists come and they take advantage of the clean water and the natural stone. And here's another angle from it. Here you can see that the typical how the travertine get colored by other minerals. So on the lower part of the hill is a more white travertine, but at the top, because of other minerals in the water, this cliff has some different coloration. So it's basically a mineral waterfall. Pamukkale in Turkish means cotton castle, and it's been here for thousands and thousands of years. Of course, Turkey is the site of the birth of human civilization. Turkey, recently, a site has been found in eastern Turkey called Göbekli Tepe, which is a series of stone monoliths dating from 12,000 years ago. And it shows the fact that Turkey has always been a site of architecture and building with stone. And during the Roman period, right in Denizli, near the site of Pamukkale, we have this city of Hierapolis, which is a major city. This is a major boulevard. And this architecture, this Roman architecture, is all in travertine. And you can see how travertine ages. This is a 2,000-year-old city, but the travertine is still has its character and has a kind of material properties that date from that period. As I said, travertine, different from limestone, it has additional heat and pressure applied to it in Earth's crust. That additional heat and pressure with the natural springs, the geysers and the rivers, these two things come together to create travertine. And as with all types of marbles and natural stones, it's nature. Nature makes travertine. It takes millions of years of water, minerals, heat, and pressure to make it. But the process is a process that is a geological process and shows, and to us, we're lucky, you know, we get to use this material that's been sitting in the earth for millions and millions of years, and we get to use it in the places that we live. So it has, I think, unique properties that way. And just to finish up its introductory remarks, I just wanted to show you this building. This is a building by Shigeru Ban, who's a noted Japanese architect. And here, within the context of a modern architecture, we can see how the exterior wall here has been clad in travertine, where you can see the layering of how it comes out of the earth, and now it's a part of this building on this quiet street with trees. And we have also here, you can see how travertine easily adapts to modern architecture using other natural materials. And this is always a very good combination, which is travertine with natural wood surfaces. They work very well together. You can see here a light colored and also a dark colored stained wood panels combined with steel and glass and concrete, and how Shigeru Ban integrates all these. And the travertine wall we have here has been polished. So also, like marble, and Turkey is known for its natural stone, its marble, it can give a marble-like feel. So what are the design properties of travertine? If you want to use travertine, what are its main features? It's fairly durable. Travertine, something that as we showed in Hierapolis, can survive for many thousands of years, but it has a certain amount of character because of its material properties. So you can use it both for its durability, but also in a certain sense of elegance and flair, and its character that really gives kind of meaning to a space because of this kind of geological natural condition. And you can use it, and its most popular uses are in flooring, countertops, backsplashes, shower and tub surrounds, fireplace surrounds, and of course outdoor pavers for patios and walkways and around swimming pools. And we'll see examples of all these in example number one. You can see here that it gives a weathered look. Here we have a chiseled travertine, so you can have both more casual and formal style. It's a warm neutral color. You can use it to create a certain soft, warm feeling, and it works well with a color palette of golds, beige, browns, natural earth tones tending more towards the earth tone, tending more towards the lighter colors. But it has patterns very much like marble, and this is important because patterns really dictate character in a space. And the way you as a designer work with these patterns, it's extremely influential in the result that you will create from your use of travertine. The understatement, because it's tone on tone, so you have a little bit of pattern, but you also have a little bit of color that work well together. So this combination. These are all very nuanced parts of design that require, I think, the designer to really think through exactly how they're going to use all the possibilities of travertine. We also have, which is I think some designers are not so aware of, we also have different variety of colors of travertine because of the fact that the water and the minerals involved with the creation of travertine over thousands of years can be mixed in with other types of minerals and creates undertones of green, red, rust, depending on where it originates. And the color can be a result of iron compounds or other impurities, but it gives quite a different take to a travertine, and you can be used with other travertines as a kind of way to create color in a project. Sorry, just skip that one. And it has both a casual and a very formal look. Here we have large split face panels almost of travertine. So it's giving you a kind of weathered look, but it's also in this very slick, very edgy space. So it creates a nice balance. And I think this is something I'd like to just emphasize, that with travertine, you can go in one direction, which is this very raw, weathered look, but you can also make it very polished, very hard edge. So this kind of ability to take one material and use it in very different ways, I think, is an important quality and property of travertine. And it's this finishing ability to finish travertine in different ways, and I'll show you some examples of that later on. We can polish it, hone it, tumble it, brush it, and it gives you this extra iteration in terms of how you want your design to be realized. So, having talked a little bit about the design, let's look at how some architects have used Turkish travertine. And this is a key image here, which is you can take travertine and you can see here how the travertine is used in different surface treatments and different cuts to go from the exterior of the building to the interior of the building. This is a pool house in the United States. It's a house in the United States. So it's this. I use this image because this move from this kind of raw, weathered look to a very smooth, slick look in one design, as you can see here very clearly, and the way that integrates with nature and also the interior spaces. This is a very important building by the New Mexican architect Antoine Prédoc. This is for College for Journalism and Communication in Qatar. And it's the same principle of taking the exterior here, where is this large wall in a split face travertine, and using that as the kind of exterior surface. But then when you move interior, you can then modulate this feeling, and you can see here on the ground the pavers are in travertine, and then also the exterior wall is then brought into the interior to create another more intimate relationship of this coarse, raw-looking stone travertine, working with sun, light, and different surfaces, these geometries. You can see here the different geometries created by Predok in this building are quite remarkable and show the flexibility of travertine. Here's the exterior wall, steel and glass and travertine. It's this feature of working between the very smooth and the very slick is something that we'd like to emphasize. Here are those individual pieces here on the exterior surface, modulated across different sizes, different shapes, and with the raw power of the geological aspect seen on the surface of the building. And when you get to the interior, the travertine then takes on a completely different look. Here, used on the interior, it's a very neutral, sitting in the background, allowing the space to kind of come together, pulling the space together. I like to often use almost a fictitious quote by the famous designer Terence Conran. He said that most interiors are about 70% our interiors are based on two things, flooring and lighting. And I think you can see that here in this image, that the light, how it's working with the travertine gives unique character to the space. Of course, this moving from exterior areas to interior areas, this is a pool area and a restaurant in Bodrum, Turkey by the Swedish firm Sandell Sandberg. And you can see here that they're using, again, wood with travertine around the pool and then on the stairs. But then when you go up into the main restaurant area, travertine then becomes an opportunity to create a table. Because of its flexibility, you can take one large slab of travertine, cut it up and make a long table. You can make it a round table. So you can take what appears as a kind of pavement material and then make it a furniture by just switching some of the properties, their surface properties, the selection of travertine. This is a project in Spain by architects. It's called the Villa Logica. And this move from the exterior to the interior, which is we often see in travertine, using the different properties, having a more rough treatment in the interior and then moving into the interior in a more smooth surface. And here you can see working around the pool area. It also works with other natural materials. We talked about the natural wood, but we also it works with terracotta. Here you can see all three of those working together. The naturalness of and the neutral colors work together very well with all types of other natural materials. In our day, we have lots of digital fabrication. We just looked at some of the CNC machines in Turkey that work 5-axis. And you can take travertine, and this is a project in London for this very large staircase, which are done in blocks of travertine, which are machined partly by CNC, 5-axis CNC, but it's also done by hand. So these large, massive blocks of travertine then becomes this very fluid, turn into this very fluid, very natural shape. And then natural part of the travertine, the veins, the horizontal veins. Here you can see how the horizontal veins work to kind of bring in that geological natural features into the space. This is a project by GAD Architecture of Istanbul. This is a Swiss Hotel Bodrum Resort. And you can see that same property of taking the different surfaces of travertine and making it into a kind of almost a geological formation with this kind of with these kinds of different surface treatments. But here also using, I think, is an interesting thing here where the coursing, where the architects has a coursing, this is a band coursing, and then right at a certain point, the bands become a little bit narrower. So this aspect of patterns and creating patterns, both the geological pattern, but also the pattern with regard to how you're tiling, whether it's your wall or your floor. This is another project in Turkey by Tekle Siza Architects. This is a vineyard and a wine factory. And here we can see how Turkish travertine works with Turkish marble. The main exterior facade is in travertine, but the interior secondary facade is in marble. So these two work very well together. And the Turkish marble industry has this kind of set of colors that work well because they're all coming from a similar geology and have similar properties. So you can see one of the perspectives of the side facade of the building. And then when you go inside, this is this kind of interior street. Another type of travertine is used, a darker travertine is used for the facade and gives a different character to the space, gives it a more intimate character once you step inside the main space, the main interior space. And lastly, amongst these examples is Emre Ağlat Architecture's Yalıkavak Marina. This is a large marina and shopping mall in Bodrum, Turkey. And you can see the different, both as for the walls, also for the interior spaces. You can see how the travertine works together to kind of organize the shapes of the building. And you can see how this morphology is created from all these. So let's take a look now at some of the technical aspects of the travertine, which is in our last, we have about 15 minutes left. The different finishes of travertine. The different finishes we see here are part of the production process of travertine. We have different streams where the travertine is coming from, and underground rivulets where the hot and cold water moves around. The calcium carbide is deposited and evaporates in different ways, causing some areas to become supersaturated with more of the calcite. So this happens over a large scale and takes millions of years. These surfaces are then, you can use them to have different qualities. But in order to get those qualities out, you have to have a particular type of travertine surface treatment. So to begin with, let's take a look at some of them. First with tumble. This is kind of, give it that kind of antique Roman type of look. And it's gently machine tumbled with small stones. So it kind of produces these soft edges. And it's perfect if you want to go for a kind of a Mediterranean look. It's for areas where there's little or no direct contact, such as backsplashes or wall wainscoting, or for exterior paving. You can see here some of these tumbled in different colors. This is the most popular finish, which is the filled and honed. So what this means is the natural pits are filled with epoxy resin, and this is mainly used for interiors. And the surface is sanded down or honed again to create a kind of very smooth, very regular surface, polished surface. And you can see that here, the different two types of the more coffee noche travertine with a more night silver color. You can see how this kind of interior is all pulled together in this type of travertine. You don't see, since all the holes are filled together, you don't see much in terms of the patterny that a surface affects, because everything is kind of polished down, and it creates a kind of nice even surface with the surface treatment. The brushed is similar to the honed, but it's often left unfilled, and it's not as common as honed or tumbled. What happens is, if this brush surface is a metal brush that creates a flat surface, but some of the holes are left in it. It's great for more outdoor uses where it provides traction because it's not so polished. The brushed and honed can have different applications also interior. You can use it on, for example, your walls, because it's not filled in. You don't have to worry about, if you want to use it on the interior, worry about the holes being, your foot getting on the hole, something like this. Split face is something that's been popular because of this rough finish, and it's available for all travertine. It's cut at various angles. Basically, the slab is split into two, and the split face is exclusively used for walls, fireplace surrounds, and and for backsplashes. You can see different treatments here. in a lighter silver and a darker travertine. And I just wanted to show you this image because I think it reflects, when you get split face, you're really getting into the geology of travertine. This thing that I've been talking about, this kind of water geological aspect of this natural aspect of it here. And with the split face, you can definitely see how that geology really you can bring it into your spaces. The polish is the most clean, modern, and sleek finish, where you have here edges that are precisely cut to perfect 90-degree angles. The surface is like a high gloss, glass-like surface. It's a high-end look. It's a dynamic look. It works well for formal spaces such as entrances where impressions are quite important. And you can use it here as individual slabs. You can get that one common. You can see the kind of veins across your design, or you can use it in very large tiles. Chiseling is an edge treatment, and so edges are chipped away either manually or mechanically to produce a kind of ragged bevel, and it accepts more grout, and it works. It expects more grout than, like, let's say, a conventional rounded beveled edge. You can see here, chisel gives you that antique look, and you can use this chiseled. Probably also it's good when you have a sandy formation, sandy installation. And lastly, bush hammered. The bush hammered, it's like a kind of waffle-like face, and the surface is struck with a bush hammer, producing like a kind of pitted face. Kind of looks like limestone here, as you can see, but it has a different quality than limestone because you can get it also with the travertine veins and the minerality. Moving on to some of the technical details, let's look at the different grades of travertine. There are 3 different grades of travertine: premium, standard, and commercial. Premium is a grade that has been perfectly cut and has uniform thickness throughout with very little filler. Standard grade or secondary grade will also be perfect cut with uniform thickness, however there'll be more filler in the stone. And commercial grade, also known as third grade, may not be perfectly cut on all sides. It will have a kind of uniform thickness. Additionally, there will be more filler with the stone. The premium grade offers the greatest selection of colors and are carefully chosen to be consistent in color, which is also always an issue if when you're purchasing marble, to make sure there's consistency depending on your design. And it's double filled, which means the machinery first fills it, then it's hand holed, and hands are filled the remaining holes. None of the travertine tiles of this grade will ever have large holes that we filled. We won't have that large hole issue. And the edges will be smooth and evenly sized. So you can see this is a typical premium grade travertine tile with no major pits, very smooth and very consistent color. The second largest selection of travertine comes from the standard grade. This is from grays or black and has some gray and black discoloration. They are carefully chosen to have consistent color throughout the lot. They're double filled as in premium grade, but the difference is some large holes are allowed to, in standard grade, to be retained, and some holes will be filled with the full thickness of the tile, and some may contain some interesting striation or swirls. The edges, of course, are like the premium grade, are smooth and evenly sized. So, for example, here you see some of the different colorations, the darker gray and the brown colorations working together with that more neutral travertine tone that we all know about. And the commercial grade includes, gray or black markings. We have some small unfilled holes. The tiles are not hand filled. It's acceptable to have large voids in them. Some of the holes that run from the surface to the bottom are allowed. Edges may be cracked or broken. And you're not going to have such a serious color selection or sorting with it. So, for example, you can get something like this. There is a use for this commercial grade for walls or different surfaces. So commercial grade is something where when you want to retain some of these holes, when you want to retain and give some character to different colors, this would be something you want to go for. The different cuts of travertine, cross cut versus vein cut. This is one of the major properties of travertine that you want to think about when you're putting it together, because it has to do with how the blocks are mined. So they're sliced into thin slabs that they can be worked with. So they can be sliced in different ways. So that when they have the straight lines, it's the vein cut, while the other style is the cross cut. You can see here, the vein cut is you can see the vein, the cross-cut, you see more of the swirly patterns. So the cross-cut, the swirls, and the vein cut, you see the actual geology. And here, for example, in terms of coursing, if you take two tiles, book match them, and then lay them out, you can get similar effects to on vein cut to if you're buying one large slab. So in terms of our checklist, and this is available, this presentation is available, and this is for standard tiles. If you want to buy a standard quality Turkish travertine tiles, you want to make sure that they're all 4 tiles are cut to 90 degrees. The color should not be marred by any rust colored markings. There should be no pores in the filling of a stone. The filling should consist of a hard resin that will chip. This is for interiors. For interiors, you don't want cemented interiors. Side cuts should be perfectly perpendicular. Colors should be consistent. You have the 18 and 18 standard tile size, measured in inches. We're coming from a metric country, so we want to make sure that everything gets done in inches for American application. And with shipping crates, they should be liftable by a forklift. The tiles should be visible on both sides of the crates. Part of the aspect of the Turkish stone industry is we pride ourselves on the whole fulfillment aspect of delivering you these tiles in professional quality grade crates that are stacked and organized properly. For example, you should have styrofoam on all sides. So these also are applicable to marble tiles. And lastly, we have about 5-6 minutes left. How can you design with travertine? Like, what are some things we can do? Colors. As I said earlier, we have different colors. It comes in because of its geology and the influence of iron and clay. So depending on where you want to go with your color, you can go from a kind of almost white over to yellow, but then you can jump into the different colors such as a golder color, yellowy color, the noche, which is a more brown coffee color, the silver, which has been quite popular over the last 10 years. And it gives you an opportunity to create really nuanced type of design using one material. And it's also, you can source the material from one place at the same time. So you can have, basically, if you have a whole interior of different types of travertines, which you're going to see in these last examples, how that allows you to create a very flexible design with one material. So here's different types of travertine in different colors and how they work together. In Turkey, we have more of the brown earth tone colored, as you can see here. In terms of color and price, we have excellent price to performance ratio because in fact we have a large selection. As I mentioned earlier, we have a very large amount of marbles and natural stones here in Turkey. So you can choose a marble that works with the travertine, or you can choose different types of travertine from the same supplier, from the same distributor. And this is all coming from the same place. You can package that whole order into one group. In terms of patterns, this is something very important for both marble and travertine. The different running, the bonds, basket weave, herringbone, the French pattern. And this is something that adds a lot to the design. The French pattern, very popular in the Mediterranean area, and the whole patterning tiling creates a different feel to a space that you couldn't really realize with any other method. So here we have a French pattern, running bond, this is marble running bond. This is a herringbone, and here, for example, you can see the herringbone using a darker travertine, but here as a mosaic tile. You can see the backing material there. So then you're able to use these. Here's a basket weave. I'll show you an example here. And to finish up, let's take a look at some examples here in Turkey of how these travertines are used. This is a project by Richard Meyer in Bodrum, Turkey. And here you can see how he's taken it from the pool area, and on the right he's made it a kind of bar. So you can take this material, use it as a surface, and the surface then becomes a piece of furniture. So that flexibility, then you can bring this indoors to create interior features, and we'll see some of that soon. This is from Predak's College for Journalism and Communication, and you can see in this example, Predak has always this angular language, but you can see here he used travertine as a paving material, and the regularity he created with it kind of gives this kind of very non-standard geometry, a very standard feel in terms of grounding the project through this tiling pattern, this running bond. Here, that mosaic and a herringbone as a backsplash, giving that character, giving those variety of colors, but also breaking it down and creating this kind of randomness. These are the travertine is coming almost in a random pattern. The chips from the earth. I mean, you can also use it in your design, and it has that same tumbled treatment here. This is another mosaic system, but here we have a three-dimensional relief mosaic, and this is something that I think is very important. Three dimensionalities and the fact that you can cut the pieces of travertine to give this kind of feel, I think is a very important feature of the material. And as a last project, this is a project that I know quite well because I worked on a project in Bodrum again with Sandal Sandberg. And here we have a different varieties of travertine in different surfaces. So for this more formal, more serene living room with this white shelves, but there's also this kind of white modern furniture. It creates a base, but during the daytime it opens up, allowing light and air to give to hit the travertine and give it a different feel. For example, here that same travertine is used as a fireplace surround. We can see how the fireplace surrounds are an important part of the process. Here, there's a travertine table on a travertine tile, but importantly, this backsplash here, we have a marble, a kind of beige from Turkey, and how these two patterns work together, the floor tiles with the countertop and the backsplash to create this kind of unity in marble, Turkish natural tone and travertine. Using this table here, the table has this very large travertine slab with this pitted surface, but the honed tiles provide a different feel because they don't have the black pits, but on the table you can see those black pits together. This is all Sandal Sandberg working with the German interior architect Urlaub's Architektur, using natural materials here again, the white, the natural neutral tones. Then moving here from the honed surface to a more chiseled surface. This transition is almost, you can see the seam. I'm not saying it's not seamless, but the transition is not so abrupt. And as the last slide, you can see that the same furniture works here in the interior, but also you can see how this furniture as an outdoor material works in the exterior. So it's also using travertine, but in a different way to give a kind of unity. And in the context of this Mediterranean Aegean setting, it really gives an opportunity for travertine to be shine in its natural environment. So I think that's about it for my almost 40 minutes. So I want to thank you for your time. I'm sorry there was a little bit of background noise there from my computer fan, so apologies for that. It's a very big presentation, so the computer had a little bit of effort to try to keep it all together. So thank you very much. If you have any questions, I'm here to take your calls.
Thank you, Gökhan, for such an informative and spectacular presentation. Those were some beautiful pictures you featured there. So as promised, now it's time for our Q&A session. As a reminder, if you have something you'd like to ask about the presentation, please use the sidebar on the right side of your screen to submit your questions. So Gökhan, we received quite a bit of questions. So let's see. The first one that we received is, what is the difference between travertine and limestone? And specifically, what is the difference between Turkish travertine and the other countries' travertine?
Okay, so the limestone, travertine is it belongs to the limestone family, but the difference is that where the travertine is coming from, it's this extra aspect of water. The natural hot springs, underground rivers, the streams of water bring into this limestone other types of minerals, and then there's a slight more pressure created to give that natural, both the veined horizontal pattern and also that swirling pattern. So that's the big difference between the limestone and the travertine. The Turkish travertine has a different coloration versus other travertines. As we showed earlier in some of the examples, we have this more natural earth tony group of travertines. But I think it's important to notice that we have a very long history of working as a sector, and our history over 10,000 years. We live in a place where people have been making architecture with stone. So our natural stone sector today is is an heir to this heritage. But we also have modern production techniques, and we know that's important if you're having a very critical large job. You get your stone or marble on time, it's packaged well, you get what you ordered. So as the natural stone sector, we're in Turkey, Turkish stones, we can confidently say that that fulfillment part is something that makes us one of the #1 exporters of marble and stone throughout the world, and in terms of travertine, the #1 exporter.
Thank you for that. So I'm going to read off a list here. Like I mentioned, we had our viewers submitted quite a bit of questions, and I may combine a few of them. So this one is about maintenance in particular. It says, what is the general maintenance of travertine floor installation? And then they mentioned marble and quartz has a very basic care that is of water and mild soap. Is travertine cared for the same way as Turkish marble and quartz?
Yeah, I mean, it's a very similar. You can, the thing with travertine is you can have it weathered, and I think this is a property that is important if you're using it on exterior areas. The fact that it'll age quite nicely and give even more sense of character over time. And in terms of its interior spaces, travertine, as I showed in that example, it works well with Turkish marble. You have a travertine as a backsplash and a mosaic, but then your countertop is in travertine. You can use a polished travertine as a countertop material. So these kind of combinations, I think, you can use the same types of surface treatments and fillers that you do use for marbles with travertine. But the travertine is much more flexible and wider, has wider application. So, we suggest that you try to figure out how to work together with marble, because it'll give you a different feel by changing that color slightly and having the veining of the marble work with the veining of the travertines. But it's in the same, it uses the same types of treatments. Of course, travertine, because it has its holes, are filled in using different types of epoxy resins and cements for outdoor. Those surface treatments, that's a different category. But if you want to use it as a countertop material, yes, you can use it in the same way as marble.
Thank you. Now the next question, are there any environments in which travertine is not suitable, such as in certain regions or weather?
Okay, now with travertine, it does have some frost issues. So, it's going to expand and contract. So what we suggest, if you're going to use it as an outdoor paving material, let's say in a cold frost area, that you set that with sand so that allows that expansion without cracking. So that would be like #1 concern. If you're building in northern climates, and if you want to use travertine as an outdoor exterior material, which we definitely recommend, you want to lay that with sand. The sand allows that degree of expansion and contraction caused from frost over and seasonally. So that would be the one thing that you want to pay attention to. In terms of interiors are basically just like marble, so you can use it in any way you want. It's just the outdoor frost issues you want to be careful with.
Thank you. The next question, how much environmental impact is there when creating the veneers?
The veneers, the veneer is a new product, these veneers. So basically you're taking a slab that was destined to be a slab, and you're kind of sanding it down into a very thin, almost millimetric veneer of marble or travertine. It's mainly used for marble. It's not as popular, the veneers in travertine, but they do exist. The marble powder that comes from it is repurposed in other types of engineered stone, I know. But the veneers, I think, if you want to use a veneer, a marble veneer, what we also recommend as a natural stone sector in Turkey is that you want to get the most bang for your buck. So you want to get a marble that has a really interesting look to it, either through color or veining, and you can use that as a veneer because it'll give you a certain flexibility, whether you want to use it on shelves, for example. You could get a whole shelf unit in a veneer, or if you want to have a huge feature like a wall panel in your living room, or if you want it in offices for your entryway, the veneers work well that way. But it's a new material. The natural stone sector in Turkey Turkish Stones has been working with this material. There's different types of substrates for it. You can use them anywhere from fiberglass to aluminum, honeycomb, to even ceramic panels. So it's something to be looked at, and especially if you want to use a very specific and very dynamic type of marble, I would recommend that for veneer.
Thank you. The next question is the weight of travertine comparable to marble, or would it be lighter in weight? And then as a follow-up, can I use my marble installer to install travertine?
Yes, you can definitely use your marble installer to use travertine. Of course, the marble installer with travertine, whether they do, depending on what they're doing, it's less popular. Marble we want to use on our countertops. Travertine, as I showed that example, you can use in furniture, but it's a similar group. Travertine is a little bit lighter than marble. It's not as dense as marble. So in that sense, it's a lighter material. That's why you can use more of it, I think, in a project than you would normally think about using with marble. But they're complementary. And this is something I'd like to, reiterate again. The natural stone, Turkish stones, the marble group and the travertine group these are two major stone groups. They're complementary. So, your marble installer would be able to work with the travertine in a way that, to complement and then coordinate those interiors. But with travertine, you can use more of it because it's slightly lighter. It's obviously its price performance ratio. It's less expensive, and so then you can go from your outdoor area to your interior by just changing surface treatments. You can go from a hone to a polish to a split face. You can change color. You can change edge treatments. And this is, I think, the biggest advantage of travertine. You can use a lot more of it with a better price performance ratio and with and provide. Designers are always looking for ways to kind of to do a lot with a little. And with one material, you can do a lot and pull it all together in a way, working with one fabricator, working with one supplier. So you can get somebody to do your, you don't need somebody else to do your fireplace, somebody else to do your countertop. This can be all kind of conceived of in one group holistically.
Thank you. Next question. How has the engineered stone market affected the demand for the natural travertine stone, and how is the industry responding to it?
Well, as a natural stone industry, we have consistently and constantly said, natural stone and nature are extremely important. In my own work, I implement biophilic design, where we try to emphasize natural patterns. I mean, these patterns of these travertines, they've been sitting in the earth for hundreds of millions of years, and we get to take them out and put them in places we live, which I think is a tremendous luxury. And now in this period where everybody's been in their homes a lot, we've seen that nature does have an effect on how we think, or emotionally, and how we really, it affects our mental state. And I think natural stone, both the feel of natural stone is something that's not emphasized enough, I believe, is that the feel, the haptic, it's called, when you touch natural stone, it's different than if you touch engineered stone. I mean, it's a much different feel. Engineered stone with its chemicals and things like this is a much, I haven't seen a scientific report, but I can say that the natural stone, both visually and materially, it has much different qualities. And as a sector, we've been trying to emphasize it. Obviously, these quartzites and these engineered stones have made inroads into the cladding market, into tiling market. But we believe in this day and age that natural and nature and biophilic design, look it up, it's an important trend. Clients are asking for it. It definitely improves your life. And I think natural stone is a definite key feature in that. And travertine, because of its veining, its flexibility, and its texture, I think is an important quality that architects and designers, especially in interiors, need to take advantage of.
Thank you, Gökhan. We have the last two questions here. What colors of travertine would be found in areas around the Antalya region versus Bodrum?
The Bodrum region is actually the closer there is the Denizli area. So you have the more classic brownish, light brownish travertine. Towards Antalya, I think you're getting even lighter. Antalya is even lighter. And then you might also get a little bit towards the on one side, the lighter with the lighter browns. But don't quote me on that. I think our experts at the İstanbul Mineral Exporters Association, İMİB Zeynep Berk, her email is available to everybody. She can give you insight into all these different types of stones. You need some more technical material.
Thank you. And the last question, how can we get Turkish Travertine?
Turkish Travertine is available widely throughout the United States through an extensive network of distributors and sales points, from do-it-yourself stores to high-end marble suppliers and distributors. If you just specify that you want Turkish stones and you want Turkish Travertine, it's universally available. And we at Turkish Stones here at the İstanbul Mineral Exporters Association, we can assist you through sourcing and finding the exact type of travertine for your project, and also working with the natural stone industry in Turkey. Turkish Stones is our brand, not just for the products we sell, but for the services we offer. We're a very professional, large sector with a tremendous footprint internationally, both here in Europe and Asia, but we're one of the major exporters of natural stone to the United States, available throughout major markets in places like New York, Atlanta, Los Angeles, Dallas, Fort Worth, Miami. If you ask for Turkish stones, you ask for Turkish travertine, you will not have a hard time getting it, and also not have a hard time, because part of the thing with the Turkish stone industries, we also work closely with interior designers, architects. You can come over to Turkey, take a look at what you want, different stones that are available, and you'll see a professional group of business people with architects usually on staff to help you with your drawings and specifying exactly how much of the Turkish stone, of the Turkish travertine you need.
Thank you, Gökhan. On behalf of ASID, I want to extend a huge thank you to you, as well as to Turkish Stones and IMIB, our ASID industry partner, as well as all of you for participating in this week's Partner Spotlight webinar. As a reminder, you will receive a recording of Gökhan's beautiful presentation via email, which will also include a link to a survey. We would really appreciate your valuable feedback. We look forward to seeing you again at our next Partner Spotlight webinar on how to define surface performance, presented by Wilson Art on August 20th at 3 p.m. Eastern Time. Thank you, everyone. Have a great day.
Thank you, Denora.